Welcome to the MMA Heat podcast. Karyn, Bryant here.
What's up, everyone? Alan Jouban with you as well.
Yeah, so we will talk about UFC Vegas 8 and kind of just go over that. And Alan, I mean, you know, it's funny because another day, another dollar. It's like a rinse and repeat cycle here going out to Vegas for me. But in general, how you feeling? I know everybody's getting amped because you look, based on your social media, like you're getting ready to fight or something.
Yeah, no, I'm in training mode. Again, I'm eyeballing Vegas. I don't know, as we just talked, I don't know if that's going to happen. But I'm just waiting on Sean Shelby. That's the matchmaker that I deal with for the 170s. And I'm waiting on him to call my manager. But I'm good to go. Obviously, I'm only about 4 to 6 weeks in the training camp. And you get better in that 6, 7, 8 week mark. That's when you really start hitting that next level. Not quite there yet. But to be honest, I'd probably take a last notice fight within a couple of weeks if they threw it to me right now. Just because when you're training your butt off, you want that reward. You want that time where you can go and show what all the hard work has been for and just get that excitement. Otherwise, it's kind of like grueling training. So ready to go. I'm waiting on the phone call.
Cool. Well, yeah, I guess I would say stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
That's what I try to do. But when you stay ready too long, that's when the injuries come. So that's why I stay ready, but then I want that reward at some point.
Yeah, that's it. That's actually an interesting thing because so what do you work out at, like 75% level? Like, I mean, that is interesting, right? Because you do need to protect yourself. And that's kind of an interesting topic for a lot of people because there are so many people taking short notice fights and everything right now in Vegas. But yeah, how do you sort of prepare to be ready but not go too hard?
That's it. You said like 75 getting consistent, good quality reps where you're putting money in the bank every day. You're improving on skill sets. And then when you get that phone call, you can flip the switch because then the excitement comes. And then you can say, okay, now I'm not going to focus so much on getting 100 reps of guillotines every day. Now I'm going to focus on applying my fight strategy. So you just you alter your game plan a bit and the intensity level goes up a good bit depending on the time slot, how long you have into a fight. If it's only 1 week, obviously you can't go too hard. But yeah, when you get that phone call and they say, look, we need you last minute, 4 weeks out in Vegas, okay, it's game time. Let's flip the switch. Let's start going hard. Let's start making sparring a lot more realistic and things that you're doing in sparring make it more realistic to what you would do in the fight, not just trying out ideas, but actually implementing game plans. Mm-hmm. And so it just makes it more exciting. It's when you have that goal in mind and you can envision, this is my opponent. This is the day. This is where I'm fighting. You dream about it every night. And so just training becomes a lot more realistic. You start seeing that opponent's face on your sparring partners and you start envisioning envisioning the crowd, but there's no longer a crowd, but you start envisioning the arena and everything happening. So it just makes it a lot more realistic. So I'm waiting on that so I can kind of flip that mental switch and go there in training.
Nice. Very nice. Well, yeah, I mean, just be careful. I think, what did I say to you this morning? Just keep your hands up.
Hands down, chin up? No. Hands up,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and don't move your feet at all.
Okay, good job.
only attack in straight lines. Yeah, let's actually be really funny. Up. Give the worst advice possible. Only attack in straight lines. Never move your head, and only throw single punches.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, listen. We may as well dig into it. The main event was number 8, Anthony Rakic against number 5. Aleksandar Rakic against number 8. Let me start over. Number 8, Aleksandar Rakic against number 5, Anthony Lionheart Smith. And it was only a 3-round fight. It was initially going to be the co-main event, supposed to be Magny and Jeff Neal. And we know that Jeff Neal had to he had some medical conditions, really bad after COVID. So Anthony and Aleksandar became the main event. It's just a 3-round fight. It wasn't 5. And, it was a lot of the same thing from Aleksandar Rakic in this one. He had a lot of control over Anthony. And after the fight, Anthony basically was saying, look, I guess I'm kind of in the middle, right? I'm too big for middleweight and I'm maybe too small for light heavyweight. And he had to really kind of make said he needs to make some hard choices or have some conversations, because if he's going to try to go back to 85, that would mean a wholesale life change all year round. If he's going to go up and get bigger, then that's a change too, to bulk up and get bigger. Because, yeah, he really does. Obviously I work with him a lot. And a lot of time he only walks around at 208, 210. Mm-hmm. And that is small for a 205er. So there was a lot he had to say about it, but it was a good performance from Rakic, a very commanding one.
Yeah, and it was a commanding performance. It's interesting to hear you say that, though, about Anthony Smith, saying And I get what he's saying. He's a tweeney, an in-between
Yeah.
middle weight class. And that's a tough place to be. We've seen so many people over the years that are kind of stuck there where they go up or down. I mean, it has its benefits. But, yes, when you go against a bigger, stronger fighter like Rakic, you can see what happens. And Anthony, I'm so used to seeing Anthony Lionheart Smith be the taller, lengthier guy, right? Most of his opponents, he's just got longer legs, longer arms. He's towering over them. And then when these two faced off at the weigh-in, I was like, wow, this is Anthony, for the first time, looks like the shorter fighter.
Yeah.
And I think they mentioned in the broadcast that Anthony might have had on sandals and Rakic didn't. Yeah, it was not a great – well, it was a great performance for Rakic and not a great performance for Smith. But I don't see why he wouldn't be able to make middleweight. Did he give you any insight to that? He's saying that it's just he's so lean and tall that it's tough for him to make that weight at this age.
I think that's what it is that there's not a lot of places to lose the weight from. You know, and he is a little bit older. You know, Anthony's been fighting for a long time. He is, wait, let me see here. I forget all of his stats, but you know, he was, let's see. Sorry. I have all my paperwork here, which is great. I get to keep it. So like Anthony's 55. 32, right? So he's not old in actual years, but his record is 33-16. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of years on him in fight years. And so, you know, Rakic is only 28. So the thing is they're both listed as 6'4", but like you said, in the stare downs, Rakic does look taller. And Anthony has a 2-inch less reach than Rakic. And so, but yeah, they both are supposedly 6'4", but I think for Anthony to make middleweight, yeah, I honestly, like I said, I work with him all the time. He looks very lean when we're working together. I don't really know where it would come from. And he said, yeah, like he only has to lose a few pounds to make weight. Like he had a steak dinner, I think, on Wednesday night. You know what I mean? So in terms of him going up to be bigger with the bigger light heavyweights and stuff like that, you know, he was talking, he would have to, you know, gain a lot of muscle mass and all that kind of thing. And that's, you know, that's a different style. And he doesn't know if he wanted to be that kind of fighter. So, you know, he just said you know, there was a lot that he had to think about because it wasn't that, he said really basically what it came down to, and I know we're focusing on the Anthony side of this more than the Rakic side. It's only because we know Anthony and I don't know Rakic as well. But, you know, he said basically it wasn't necessarily that the things that Rakic were doing were so good or that he's like, I know I'm better than him. I literally just couldn't get him off of me. He's like, I couldn't get up. He's just too big and heavy. Like it really came down to that. So it wasn't about technique. And, you know, there were a lot of things that he felt he was doing correctly and well in the fight and things that did land. But really when it came down to that ground control position, he's like, look, I physically just couldn't get this man off me.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my point of view on Anthony Smith's future. Take it for 2 cents, you know, if you will, because he's the man. He knows what he needs to do. He knows his body weight, and he's a tremendous fighter. With that said, I would think going back down to 85, where you have this sizable advantage on everyone, would be the best thing to do, especially if you said he's walking around at 205. It's a 20-pound cut. That's what I do, and I'm lean. I'm a lean guy. 20 pounds is nothing. That's, you know, you can take that off pretty easily. So I would imagine if he's in that 205 area walking around, 185 is a stone's throw away. So I would go back down to there because now he has the height, the length advantage. And for his game style, you know, Anthony is a really dangerous striker. And he's really good at jiu-jitsu. But his wrestling, he tends to favor going to his back. He's very comfortable on the ground off of his back. Yeah. And he's good at not taking too much damage in some fights because he has he has an active guard. He's throwing shots from the bottom. He's throwing up submissions, and he's kind of playing Z guard and stuff where he's kind of pushing you away. But nonetheless, what I'm getting at is he allows guys to kind of control him on the ground. Doesn't always take too much damage. Granted, in the Glover Teixeira fight, took a lot of damage. But you think about Glover Teixeira, he was on his back for a tremendous amount of time. John Jones on his back for a tremendous amount of times. In this fight as well, on his back. So for that type of style, if you feel like you're not winning the stand-up war and you go to the ground and you're going to be a back player, a guard player, I would say go to the smaller weight classes because the bigger men are able to control him, power out of submissions, and do damage. Where with the smaller guys, if you went to the ground against the 85ers, there's a lot of 85ers that I would say that the common height for an 85er is probably 6 foot, 6'1".
Right.
And so he'd have a sizable advantage with his legs throwing up triangles and submission. So I feel like for his style and what we've seen as of lately and heard from him that these guys are just getting too strong, take it back down to 85. I think he'd have more success there. But again, this is a question that he's going to know best with his body type.
Yeah, basically it made it sound like for him to be able to do 85 is like a year-round diet, basically.
Really? Okay.
You know what I mean? And so he's like, I don't want that, because that then affects the quality of his life when he's not fighting too.
So it sounds like he's not walking around at 205. Maybe when he sees you guys at shows, when he's in the middle of training camp, he's at 205. But like, if he's dieting to get to 205, I get it. But
no, he doesn't really diet to make 205. He doesn't really have to work that hard to make 205, like, at all. I think he literally just cuts like the week of or something a couple pounds. Like,
for some reason, to me, the numbers don't add up. If you're walking around in that 205, then you seem, like I said, that's a 20-pound cut, and that's the average. That's the average weight cut for most fighters. Some guys do the 30-pound cuts and whatnot. But if he's in that 205 area, living comfortably, then I would go down there. But again, this is something he knows better than us.
Well, on the other side of it, though, of course, is Rakic, and we know that Reyes and Blachowicz are fighting in a few weeks for the vacant light heavyweight title. And then before that, we have Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira. So, I'm not sure where you are in this. A lot of people kind of assume Reyes will win since they think he beat Jon Jones anyway, and that maybe it would be, Santos versus Reyes first for the title. But, Rakic, like I said, was number 8 before, and he just took out number 5. So he's making a good argument for himself. Maybe he would then fight the winner of Glover versus Thiago, and then that person would go for the next title. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Rakic did the right thing. He threw out, they asked him, what do you want next? And he said, I want the belt. It was kind of a funny interview, the way that he did it, But he's doing the right thing. He's throwing the belt conversation out there, the title conversation out there. Is he the next guy in line? I don't necessarily believe so. We just said, Dominick Reyes seems to be like the front runner for the guy that will probably take the belt. And then who did you say is also fighting?
So Thiago Santos is coming back from his injury, and he's fighting Glover, and we know what Glover beat Anthony.
Yeah.
So Thiago Santos, he hasn't been in action for a little bit of a while, but he's great, and so I personally think Thiago will beat Glover. So I think Thiago Santos would be the first person to challenge for the title personally, but after we see Dom and Yeon, but I could see that you might say the winner of Glover Santos has to fight Aleksandar Rakic. I could see how you could maybe say that.
Yeah, and I guess it also depends on timelines. Like, when does Rakic fight again? Because if if Glover and Santos fight, I don't know the exact date.
They're in a couple weeks, and then the open title is at the end of September at UFC 253.
There you go. Okay, so we'll have a lot more clear path within a couple of weeks, who the champion will be and who the next in line. But if Glover would happen to win, because he's coming off of a win as well as Anthony Smith, and he also did a lot more damage over a 5-round fight, and if he's able to get over Santos, who also did very well against the former champion Jon Jones, and that would put Glover, can you imagine Glover Teixeira fighting for the title, which seemed like when he first came into the UFC, Glover, not to sway the attention, but Glover came in with all this hype. He was Chuck Liddell's sparring partner for years, and he's on a 30-fight win streak, came in with a lot of hype, did great, fought for the belt, and then since then he's kind of been hit or miss, right? He's kind of been win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and I feel like a lot of the hype has kind of been lost for Glover. You're getting a seasoned veteran, but he's not an exciting new prospect anymore. But with a win right here over Santos, man, Glover's right back in that action. So that'd be tremendous for him. But Santos, deadly at 85, deadly at 205. And again, to look that phenomenal that he did against Jon Jones with a torn ACL, MCL, LCL, whatever the hell he did, basically with a Michael Bisping knee, and he fought 5 rounds against Jon Jones. It's just, I'm excited that you mentioned that fight. I can't wait to see what happens with that one. But that'll have to play out before we could see where everyone else goes, really, to see what the future is in that division. Yeah,
I think Glover's actually on a winning streak, though. I think he's actually on like a 3-win streak right now or something, but I could be wrong. There's a lot to go over, with all those fights. But yeah, the light heavyweight division right now, it's good and it's interesting. And the fun thing about it is, for so long the champ was either named John or DC. That It is really cool to see some movement in there. And so, it'll be good. The thing I was encouraged by was that Anthony never used the word retirement or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All he did was think about trying to figure out what's next. And for Rakic, he was talking about, he's kind of a big deal at home. He's born in Austria, but he trains in Croatia, and he actually went and got to train with Krokop, who's his hero. And he was saying, he's kind of humble. He reminds me of like a big puppy dog, and I mean that in a good way. Just like a lot of energy, and you know what I mean? A lot of just like that youthful energy. But and he wasn't bragging, but he was saying, he's a big deal in Croatia. Like everybody knows him, and he walks around, and and I'm thinking, like him and Djokovic are the big stars. But so potentially, he is a big star, for on the European scene. And I think it's just one of those things where, Americans are less familiar with him. A lot of people are less familiar with him.
Right.
But if you go back and look at Rakic's head kick knockout of Jimmy Manawa, it's really incredible. He also, so he's done a lot of good things, and we probably need to start paying attention to him. He's a former kickboxer for years. He's good. And this was maybe the fight that will make people start to pay a little bit more attention to him, as they probably should.
And I'm glad that you said that, because honestly, Rakic, after watching his performance, he's a beast. This guy is going to be tough to deal with. Now, there was things in this fight that I wish I would have seen him done differently. Either go for the finish on top on the ground, or let him stand up. He had his leg hurt. He had Anthony Smith's leg hurt very bad. He seemed to be winning 90%. I think he only got punched with that one right hand from Anthony Smith in the stand-up. So there were parts of the fight. Rakic, back up, let him stand up, take that leg out again. Make him look like an injured, person for the referee to say, look, you want to fight or not? That kind of thing. Influence the fight and go for that knockout. That's how you say, look, I want that title shot, not by sitting on the ground. I saw a tweet after the fight. I can't remember. It might have been our good friend Bilal Muhammad, but somebody tweeted after the fight that if this was a fight on the Contender Series, Dana White would not have awarded either man a contract. And I get what he meant by that. Neither man was really looking for the finish or looking for that big exciting impact. It was a great fight by Rakic, a smart fight. So when you're fighting on a big show main event, and not all the fan base is that familiar with you, looking for the finish sometimes is essential, because not only will you possibly get that finish, but it's showing Dana White, the UFC fans, that like, this is a guy that's a contender. This is a guy that's an exciting fighter. This is the type of contender that we want to give a title shot to. So that's the one knock I had on him. But other than that, a very, very dominating performance against a tough guy like Anthony Smith.
Yeah, a finish would have been good, but a dominant performance is pretty great too. But I agree, a finish would have been good. But I say that, I'm like, well, don't finish my friend off.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that was the main event. So in the co-main event, Neil Magny was really just in control. His wrestling is so good. Mm-hmm. And I feel, the thing that sucks is I'm such a Robbie Lawler fan, and I hate that he keeps getting matched up with wrestlers. And I know this wasn't initially his matchup. Like I mentioned, Neil was supposed to fight Jeff Neal. And, Robbie kind of took this on short notice-ish, but it's been over a year since he last fought. The last time he fought was against Colby, and that was in New Jersey. So I thought there was a little more urgency from Robbie, because there really wasn't. I didn't see enough of that in the fight with Colby, and I thought there was going to be more urgency. And the guys and I were talking about that as something that he needed in this fight. And there were a couple of flashes of moments. But again, Neil just commanded this fight. When they looked at the stats, like, Robbie threw so few punches. At one point, it was like 117 punches to 17 or something from Robbie. So his output was just way, way, way too low. And even though that when he throws, you could get like something incredible, you can't win a fight throwing that few punches. So it's a rough skid for Robbie. I still think there's a lot that he could have done in there. I think that's what was so frustrating to me, was while Neil is so good at what he does, and I know Neil's great at that, and that's why Neil has like been such a threat in the division for so long, but there was a real big part of me that's like, can't you just please give Robbie somebody that all they want to do is stand and throw punches?
I feel like the last time that we saw that sense of urgency, that fire, that dog in a fight mentality that Robbie Lawler has grown all of us fans accustomed to, that we love, was against Ben Askren. When he went in there against Ben Askren and almost took Ben Askren's head off and then body slammed him, and they were in this crazy fight until Ben Askren caught him in about 2 minutes of the fight. That was the last time that I saw it. And then since then, like you said, against Kobe, he just kind of sat there and was content with taking the jab. In this fight against Neil Magny, let's not take for granted, and you said it already, but Neil Magny does what Neil Magny does. He does it so well. He doesn't tire down. He's excellent in striking. He's excellent in closing distance. He's excellent in staying on you. He nullifies everybody's game plan. So we add that into the equation. Neil Magny will nullify you. But there is still something that Robbie Lawler used to possess, that he would find a way out, and he would try to kill you. He would try to decapitate you in that split-second opening that he had in the scramble. But Robbie Lawler now is a little bit content getting out and kind of just going, okay, yeah, I'm losing, but, I'm going to stick with it. And Robbie, I don't want to say anything bad because I'm such a fan. He's earned so much respect to all of us over the years. But the fire is not quite what it used to be that we're seeing out of the Robbie Lawler as of lately. And we're going to need to see it again. Like you said, if somebody is standing there toe-to-toe trying to take his head off, we might see that. But then again, we saw that with Colby Covington, not taking his head off, but Colby Covington did punch him in the face the entirety of the fight, and Robbie was kind of content with it. That didn't really piss him off as much as I thought it would.
Yeah, and the thing that sucks, too, about the way the record looks, I think Van Askren was knocked out for a minute there. You know what I mean? I thought he was out.
Tough.
I thought Robbie won that fight, and then Robbie lost the fight in the same fight. So that one kind of really bums me out because I don't really think it should count as a loss on his record. And I guess that's what it is. I don't know why he's content to just kind of go through the fights as they've been going. I don't know. We don't know if it's just that he's been in too many wars and he just doesn't feel. I don't know.
I don't have an answer, but I'll say this, without getting into fight psychology, because I don't know it, but we're comparing two fighters so far. We're comparing Anthony Smith, who has about 50 fights. We're comparing Robbie Lawler, who's got probably 30, 40 fights
Tons
as well,
of fights,
right? These are both guys, again, with so many fights and so many wars, and they've been and fought through adversity, been in those fight of the nights, won with quick knockouts. They've been there before. And at some point, it just becomes like I'm doing my job. I'm defending. Right. I'm not letting you kill me, but I'm also not trying to kill you back. And at some point, you kind of start losing that pizzazz. That's something that you had early in your career.
Right.
And I'm hoping that it's not gone and forgotten for these guys. Right. It's more so they get into a place and they're somewhat content to say, I'm going to stay alive. You're not going to kill me. And it's a moral victory because you can't kill me. I can't be killed. But he's still losing the fights. And we're kind of seeing that from both men. And again, I say that with a tremendous amount of respect for both men, both guys that I think are tremendous fighters that I've watched for a while. Obviously, Robbie for a lot longer. Mm-hmm. But we're just seeing that out of their performances. Their performances as of lately, I'm not seeing the urgency to get out of positions, and they're going against tremendous opponents. But there's positions where there are times that they have opportunity to go for broke, and I'm not really seeing that out of them. That maybe the younger person in their career, they might have done that early in their career.
Yeah, Robbie's record is now 28-15 with one no contest. So it's like fighting the best people in the world over the course of his career. And maybe to your point, when in the pre-fight interviews and stuff, when talking to him, he was just talking about for me, I want to just go out there and compete really well. And he was talking about, not feeling the pressure necessarily, to win and this and that, to go out there and compete and put on a good show. So maybe the measuring stick for his own quote unquote success now is different from winning. I don't know.
I don't know why you saying that pops this into my head, and I'm probably gonna not like that I said this, but it's like somebody who's been in jail so long and they're institutionalized. They're like, okay, this is it. This is life. I'm a fighter. I win. I lose.
Yeah.
But no, man, like Robbie's better than that. Anthony Smith is better than that. We're just not seeing it out of these performances right now. I think like something needs to snap them out of it because they're better. They're better fighters than what we're
Yeah.
seeing.
Well, with that said, Neil Magny is terrific. And Neil Magny,
That's true.
again, I know we're kind of focusing on the losers here at first. And I definitely do want to celebrate the winners here because Neil Magny is incredible. And he's so good at that kind of fight, of that exhausting, grinding, taking you down, just wearing you out. And he did mix in a lot of strikes as well. And this one, he's just really, really good. He's a guy that's been in the division a long time. He's still dangerous and climbing up. I forget, I think he was number 14 going into this fight. Yeah, he was ranked number 14 and Robbie was ranked number 13. So at the very least, obviously, he'll swap positions with Robbie. It's your division. There are some names in there.
Yeah.
I was working with Chiesa. Chiesa is ranked at number 8 right now, and so he's
8?
like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to fight people lower than me, but he was thinking he and Magny would be an interesting fight because they are both that long, lanky body, that craftiness, and so it would be interesting to see what they do with Neil now, because for a lot of people he's tough because he is really tall and lanky. Because what, Alan, you're a welterweight, but Neil Magny is 6'3" with an 80-inch reach.
That's substantial. That's substantial. I'm the average welterweight. I'm 6'74" reach. So you think about that. He's got a 3-inch height advantage. You got a 6. I'm not whatever the reach is advantage. It's very substantial, and he's got all these things. He's very good everywhere, and he's got a gas tank that he doesn't slow down. How do you compete with a guy like that? Some of Neil Magny's losses, it makes you go, how did he, like Rafael dos Anjos, took Magny down and submitted him within a couple of minutes. The Brazilian with all the rear naked chokes in my weight division.
Oliveira?
Who is it?
Oh, wait, no, not Oliveira. He's lighter than you.
The most submission victories in the welterweight division.
That would be Damian
Maia. Thank you. I don't know why I always have to get Karyn to help me with your name.
Yeah.
Damian Maia did a number on Neil Magny, if I remember correctly. Took him down, submitted him. Neil Magny is one of these guys. He goes on like 6-fight win streaks and then fights some tough grappler.
Meanwhile, I think Damian beat him.
What's that?
Damian beat Neil.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Damian Maia was able to take him down and choke him out pretty swiftly in their fight. But Neil Magny goes on these win streaks and it shows what caliber fighter he is. And then he comes up short sometimes against these high-level grappler jiu-jitsu guys. Yeah. But I think that would be a very interesting matchup, the one you mentioned, Michael Chiesa against Neil Magny. I can't really understand, no offense to Chiesa, who's great, but how is he ranked 8? And Neil Magny, who's been fighting the top 15 for like 5 years, is ranked 14.
Because Mike beat Rafael dos Anjos.
Because he beat dos Anjos, yeah. So that was what did it for him, which is very interesting. If dos Anjos was able to take down Magny so quickly, Michael Chiesa was able to dominate dos Anjos on the ground.
Right.
What happens in the matchup with them? But yeah, just when I think about the people that Neil Magny has fought over the years,
right.
I think he deserves that fight. That'd be a really interesting grappling matchup.
Yeah, it would be neat. And Chiesa was like kind of, cool with the idea and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. Mike is healing up from his own knee surgery though. So he can't fight for a little while. He was thinking maybe at the end of the year or something like that, which could work out for Neil. And to your point about the gas tank, I mean, he trains at elevation in Colorado. He trains up high, so Neil doesn't get tired. A woman who also trains at elevation in Mexico City when she's there, Alexa Grasso. So in this fight with Ji-Young Kim, Alexa was moving up from strawweight to flyweight. She was the 14th ranked strawweight before, and she went up to flyweight. And I thought she just looked really, really great. I thought she would win this fight. She's got great boxing. It's interesting though, because I ran into Ji-Young Kim when we were getting actually I saw both girls when we were getting our testing done, and Kim is big, she's quote unquote big, for a flyweight. She was almost, I actually have all the stats here, but I was going to say, I thought she was sort of close to my height, but she's 5'7", I'm 5'8". But Alexa Grasso is just 5'5". And so, Alexa being the former strawweight, she was going to be coming up against a bigger girl, but she's got so much better boxing and she's just more crisp and fast. The thing about Kim is she can definitely take a punch and she can give a powerful punch, but she doesn't move that quickly. You know, she's not the fastest girl out there. So I thought that Alexa would be able to kind of touch her up a little bit more. You know, she'd give more than she took in that fight. I thought it was a really good performance from Alexa, and I think she looks great at flyweight.
I agree. I thought Kim looked to be kind of the bigger, taller girl in there, and she was kind of using her range at some point early in the fight and giving Grasso trouble. But Grasso, Alexa, she's crafty. She's a tough girl. I think she fought one of my teammates over at Black House her last.
She fought Carla. It was an incredible fight.
That was a tough fight. That was a tough fight for Carla right there, and Grasso showed, you know, the grit that she carries with her in these fights, and she brought it over into this fight and made it another gritty fight against Kim. And again, that's what got her the victory. So she looks great, and it's a new weight class for her. She did very well in it.
Yeah, and she's just very likable too. You know what I mean? She's got a sweet face. I know that's not important, but it is. But it is. Yeah, she's really sweet, and also she does have that. You know, she grew up in the boxing gym. It's like a family thing that her uncle and dad ran and stuff. So she's a woman that grew up around the gym all the time, and, you know, definitely has that Mexican fighting spirit. And you definitely saw that in that one with Carla. I was at that fight. I worked that one that was in Mexico City, and Carla won it. But it was very close, and we didn't even really see this in this fight. But Alexa's actually great in the scramble too, because Carla was putting her in all kinds of uncomfortable positions, and she was threatening with finishes herself there too. So she's well-rounded, and I think, you know, for her before at strawweight, it was making the weight was the hard thing for her. And so now, if you take that burden away and maybe just stay as a fly, I think she could do some good stuff. So
stay as a fly then.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so the card opened. I was actually like legit pissed off because I wanted to see that Yeon Kutalaba Magomed Ankalaev fight. Like, I was effing pissed. I didn't even know.
I am dying for this fight.
Yeah, dude. I was like, I got up on Saturday and I was jumping my rope or whatever, and so I hadn't even noticed. And Chiesa sends me a text. He's like, Kutalaba fights off again or whatever. I'm like, no effing way. And then I like get on Twitter and I look and I see. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be freaking kidding me. The story, you know, he had tested positive before, and they thought, I guess it was going to be clear. And it's weird because I've tried to explain this to people. Like, you don't get to be in the building on Thursday at the Apex if you didn't already pass a test that you took on Thursday. So it's so confusing with his whole thing, because he can get cleared and then goes to the weigh-ins and weighs in and everything's fine because that means he was negative. And then on Saturday, the test that he took on Friday, I guess, came up positive or something. And coaches, like, or if it was coaches in the corner, it's so confusing as to what happened. But the Kutalaba situation is based on COVID and positive tests between him and the corner and stuff like that. But I think they thought it was already going to run its course. And so now what's so confusing is whether it's really it or if it's an antibody, who knows what. And obviously they have to be safe. So you have to just, you can't go, oh, he probably doesn't have it. You know what I mean? They have to just cancel the fight.
First off, yes. The news hit me. I was like, I need this fight. I need to see the true outcome and let this rematch happen. Then I saw it was COVID. And again, it was another fight that was stopped like the day or the day before of the fight. So that, like, as you just mentioned, all fight week they were there. I think this happened a week or so ago. Wasn't this the same thing that happened with Ovince St. Preux?
Yes.
Where the day or so before the fight he was, and it blows my mind because, so you're saying they maybe had a positive negative mix up early in the week, then they got a negative, and then it came up positive. That's kind of the what we're seeing.
Yeah, and well, because Kutalaba already had COVID, like he had. But the things with the corners and stuff. But what I'm and OSP, by the way, that fight just got moved. I think OSP and Manafield are fighting this coming weekend, I think. But so that's the thing. It's like, and I know a couple of other people that have gotten some tests where they were negative one day and then positive or inconclusive and stuff. But so they always have to err on the side of caution and just keep you out of it.
It's tough because, as you said, you have to err on the side of caution if you have a positive negative test. Yep. And the other part of it is, as you mentioned as well, if you've already had COVID, it seems to be that now and then there's traces of it in your system. And it pops up. And that's what really concerns me, because I had COVID. And so now I feel like I'm going to roll in the mud because now I have an antibody. But I don't want to do all this hard work and then come fight week, all of a sudden they find a trace of it and my fight gets scratched. So it's confusing times. You can't be mad at the UFC for doing the right thing. The scratching the fight because it came up. But I'm bringing up CDC stuff, but I saw the CDC just listed on the website as well that they feel strongly now that once you've had COVID, you should have at least an antibody for at least 3 months after having it. So you can't really believe numbers that much anymore with everything going on in the world. But they gave me some confidence to feel like, all right, I had COVID, so at least I got 3 months to go and train and not really worry about it as much of spreading it to my family or anyone that I know. But to get to fight week and have this fight canceled, this is such an anticipated fight because the way they got that in each other. You remember when Bruce Buffer was calling their names and Yeon and Cutelaba walked across the octagon, they had to be separated right before the fight. And then the way that the fight took place, I think he was kind of rocked and he was embarrassed, so he kind of played it off. And then now the fight is just not going to happen. But I can't wait to see this fight if it ever happens. I hope it doesn't turn into a Tony Ferguson Khabib fight that we just always wish and wonder. But hopefully they can reschedule it in the near future and we get to see it.
I hope so. I really hope so. I think they're, just going to try to push it ahead a couple weeks. Cutelaba at least is based in Vegas and stuff, so I don't think it's a big deal. But for him. But anyway, I was bummed that we didn't see it. But anyway, so instead, we got the fight of the night between Ricardo Lamas and Bill Algeo. And I know you wanted to talk about this one. So Ricardo is a great guy. And after this fight, he said that it could potentially be his last one. So he was supposed to fight Ryan Hall, who won the Ultimate Fighter. We know Ryan the Wizard. So it would have been this great jiu-jitsu matchup because Ricardo is a black belt himself. But I mean, Ryan Hall is like,
next level.
Specialist. But anyway, so Ricardo was preparing for Ryan Hall. This time, Ryan gets injured, so he gets this guy Bill Algeo instead. Who, if when you watch his tape, the regional stuff, like he's good. And the thing that I really noticed was his swagger. Like Algeo walks around a lot of time, like in the air. His hands are really low. He has a lot of confidence in the octagon or in the cage wherever he is, with a lot of swagger, and going up against a veteran. So. And Ricardo knew going into this fight, he's like, look, this newcomer guy, he has nothing to lose, right? Like, so he could be amazing and he could go out there and go balls to the wall or whatever, but like, I'm the one with stuff to lose. He could be really dangerous. I don't really know. So at first the fight was competitive. It was competitive, and I think I gave each guy a round. But then when it came to round 3, Ricardo just went bananas. And I don't know if it was like in his head, he was thinking, okay, yeah, maybe this is my last round ever. Or just that he knew it was 1-1, but he came out like a bat out of hell and had such a decisive round. I don't have the judging in front of me, but I think somebody gave it a 10-8 even. But anyway, he gets his hands raised, they get the fight of the night, and then that's when afterwards he said, that it could potentially be his last. So he said he needed to talk it over with his family. And, I saw him afterwards, went and hung out with him on Saturday, and he's such a nice guy. And he's cool with it, potentially probably being the end. But it's hard because when you see how well he performed, you're like, oh, there's still people in there you could beat, but he has 3 kids. He has a UFC gym already. He has his wits about him still, you know what I mean? And in a way it's like, well, that's a great way to go out. Like as a veteran and as a legend, you feel like, well, he could handpick an opponent, right? He deserves a handpicked opponent. Because I was trying to explain to people, like, remember that whole scene where Max Holloway is pointing in the middle of the octagon about throwing down. I'm like, Ricardo's on the other side of that equation. Like, that's who's in the game. That's the dude. So you could see how the organization would be like, yeah, here's a finale fight for you, handpick one that you want or whatever. But at the same time, who would that even be against? I don't know. He's fought pretty much everybody. A lot of them, maybe it would be a rematch or something with Aldo or who knows what. But so I think if it's it, and he's cool with it, and it was a great way to go, and it was such a decisive win, and it was awesome.
It was. I mean, you summed it up. When you said him talking about, or when you said maybe in the 3rd round he realized it might be his last round, that's why he came out like a bat out of hell. It gave me chills. Because I was imagining that for me, because I know that day's coming soon for me as well. And I think about that. I think about going out on my sword. Or are just fighting, your last round, your last 5 minutes of fighting, you're going to go for broke. And if we saw that out of him, if it was his last round, tremendous performance. After the fight, I didn't realize he was 38. He's the same age as me. He looked phenomenal, brought that fight of the night. It was a competitive first round, as you mentioned.
Yep.
And then the experience, the veteran tricks started coming out. You started seeing him knowing when to do the ground and pound, when to work that takedown, when to strike. And you can see these small little things that you don't always get to see in fights, because the first round is just adrenaline bashing at each other. And then once the fight slows down, the veteran, the trickery, the experience is to take over. And we saw that so clearly in this fight. So it was a beautiful performance. And then afterward, as you mentioned, him talking about retirement and everything you just said, that he has a gym, he's got kids. It would be tough. It would be tough to pass on this as a going out victory, go away victory, because everybody remembers this performance as Ricardo Lamas. And so when they say, you remember Ricardo Lamas 2 years from now, they go, oh, that fight, his last fight was dope. Much better than saying, oh yeah, he got knocked out, but he was good back in his heyday.
I know.
So it's tough. But he said, the sport is a drug, the adrenaline of fight week, the adrenaline of fighting. And then every time you fight, your stock goes up, you make more money. It's tough to push that away coming off of a win. All I could do was wish him luck, but it was an honor to watch that fight. And so many things that he said in that fight, I felt I related to, just being similar age and that point in my career as well. So, it was a fun one to watch. But again, his dance partner as well in that fight, he brought it. And it takes two to tango. His dance partner brought it in that first round for sure. But it was just the crafty veteranship of Ricardo that got that victory at the end.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I was texting with his wife after, even on Instagram. She's like, he's making us cry with that speech after and everything about his kids and everything. And, I'm picturing you and Nicole and KG and all that stuff. Yeah. And like I said on the air too, but yeah, his gym is in Naperville, which is in Illinois. It's outside of Chicago, I guess. He's got a UFC gym. So if he's not fighting anymore, people could definitely find him there, because I'm sure he'll be training. And it's funny, I want to do a little sidebar, because I know there was one prelim you were excited about, that Sean Brady one, but your thing about the veterans and the little tricks. I was showing Wade, I was taking some pictures for Chiesa the other day, because Rashad wanted to show him some takedowns and some grips and things. And it's so cute because Chiesa's this little puppy who's just tell me more, Hall of Famer, and trying to get as much information as he can from him. And so it really was because, how you were saying, he's getting into how is Chiesa in the top 8, but he's there now, but that's what's going to start to separate him from the real pros. And that's the whole thing that Rashad was trying to tell him. He's like, these are these little crafty things that the guys above you know that you don't know yet, right? And so he's like, when you do this takedown, grab here instead of this, and make sure your head's on the outside instead of this time. And Mike's like, what? You know what I mean? And then Rashad would be like, yeah, and do this next time, from here to here, don't do this, go chest to chest with this here, and instead of putting your leg here, weave it through here and go, and so Mike's just trying to soak in all this information, but that was the whole thing, because his mind is blown, and you're like, well, how is it that somebody who's obviously been fighting for a really long time, and Mike was on The Ultimate Fighter and all this stuff, it just goes to show you that he's literally now at this point in his career still having his mind blown by these little tweaks and little things that might completely change his next fight. And I guarantee, so then same thing, he's just okay, well, if you win with that, I need the shout out, you know what I mean, afterwards or whatever, because it's that next level stuff that the veterans have that a lot of people just don't know yet.
I think of it like this. So let's say you go to the gym every single day and you learn 3 things every day. Maybe they're new, maybe they're touching on something you learned in the past, but every day you work on 3 items. After a week of training, that's a lot of items, but you really only retain maybe 2 or 3 of those, and then you really only implement 1 or 2 of those into your game, because my body style or my fighting style. Right. And so you get really good at those 1 or 2 items, and you're able to start winning. But these veterans, these crafty guys like Rashad Evans or like Ricardo Lamas, over the years, they've retained 50 of those techniques they got really good at, where the guys that are just doing really, really good only have 2 or 3 of those. So, yeah, you start seeing these small little adjustments oh, man, I never thought of that. Or, I was showed that once, but I wasn't sure. but guys like Rashad Evans are solidifying. No, this works, man. I use it all the time, and so it's cool to hear that that he was showing Mike that stuff. And I just want to say Mike's a great fighter. I guess I was just shocked when you said that he was 8 because because he got there so soon.
Right.
When a guy like Neil Magny has like about to beat George St. Pierre for the most wins
I know.
In welterweight history, and he's only 14. It was the difference in numbers that blew my mind. But yeah, Mike's great.
Yeah, well, and it's because Mike was ranked pretty well at lightweight. But it's just that when he jumped up, they gave him a good fight in RDA, and you beat a former champ. You're gonna get a high ranking.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it'll be good to see. But like I said, Chiesa probably won't be back in action until like December or something like that, coming off his knee surgery. But yeah, I wanted to ask you about this because this is the fight that they also were really impressed with Sean Brady and that one-arm guillotine early on the prelims against Aguilera. You love that too?
That was impressive. I mean, I know Aguilera from the regional scene for quite a few years. Big power, well-rounded, strong guy. But against Brady, man, Brady just looked like a powerhouse. The way that he's built those tattoos, he's got the tattoo game going. But he looked sharp on the feet. And then when they started explaining his background, that he's really a phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy, you could see it. He's a phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy with a massive squeeze. I mean, that one-handed guillotine, he had it, and then it was a scramble. He stayed on it, readjusted mid-scramble, jumped back on it, which a lot of times will cost you the position. He got a better position, finished it with a one-handed guillotine, put Christina Aguilera.
It's Christina Aguilera. Sorry. It's so hard not to say Christina Aguilera. This poor guy must hear it all day, every day.
I know. Sorry about that. Puts Christian Aguilera out with that one-handed guillotine very quickly. He probably... In the mid-scramble, Christian probably had exhaled and wasn't ready, and then the choke came on so tight. It wasn't like a squeezing, counting to 10. It was an immediate 10, and put him out within a matter of seconds. So I would love to see this guy fight again. I thought he looked phenomenal. We were talking before the fight. Who was it that I said I wanted to see?
Khamzat Chimaev.
Chimaev, the guy that we all learned about at Fight Island, fought twice in about 14 days or something. Right. I think that would be an interesting matchup. The grappling, the rangy, tall grappler in Chimaev against the powerhouse type jiu-jitsu guy in Brady. So that'd be interesting, but just throwing it out there. But impressive performance for his debut for sure.
Let Chimaev fight Neil Magny.
That would be interesting too, right? Two lanky guys.
Yeah, because if people don't know, the talk on Khamzat Chimaev. If you saw him on Fight Island and he fought at 85, so that's the other thing though, is you don't know what weight class he's going to fight in, if he's going to be a 70 or an 85er. But Khamzat won 2 fights on Fight Island, and basically he trains out of the gym with Alexander Gustafsson, and basically the line on him is that he's got the same striking as Alex, and he's got all this incredible wrestling because he's been doing it forever. And so we haven't even really seen his striking yet because we've just been seeing him out there like power double people or whatever. But so somebody like Magny actually would be a really interesting fight because they could go both places. It would be interesting. But yeah, for Brady, good win for him, and I guess he's a good buddy of Paul Felder and stuff. So but the night started actually with with 4 submissions. The first one was Mallory Martin. She had the rear naked choke in the second round over Hannah Cyphers. Then we had Polyana Viana, who had the armbar, and it was kind of in the transition. It was like on her way to being belly down. She kind of got it on the side there. She got the win over Emily Whitmire. And then, we had the one-arm guillotine, and then Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, had that rear naked choke in the first. And everybody's like, who's that? We were like, he walked right by because he cut his fro and nobody recognized who he was. The one about Vienna and Emily Whitmire. So Vienna now has the 5th fastest submission in strawweight history, and the person with the fastest submission is Emily Whitmire, and so it's kind of funny. So she took out the number 1 girl to get the 5th most fast submission. So, but yeah, it was good. The night started, like I said, with those 4 submissions, and we thought we were like gonna crank. Then we did start to get some decisions later on, but overall, the Apex has been fun. I'm going there this weekend again. We have Overeem and Sakai, and I think they put the OSP Menafield fight on that card for this weekend, so so that will be good. But yeah, people just making names for themselves, I guess, over here at the Apex and stuff. It is kind of weird because it's like, you know, making up for all this lost time, like having all these things in a row now, it is kind of like a whirlwind. But when we think about how much time we had with no fights, you know what I mean?
I know.
So it is a little bit exhausting now, but it's all good.
It's fight after fight, back to back weekends. But you said it. They went over to Fight Island.
Right.
Tremendous amount of fights, fun fights, and a lot of international guys were able to make their name. We did a list a couple weeks ago, and the same thing over here at Apex, man. All these local guys, new guys. Yep. Daniel Rodriguez,
D-Rod,
somebody here in LA, fought 3 times already. I mean, to think about that, there's a lot of guys making things happen, making name for themselves during this time. So it's a good thing. The sport's doing well. Probably the best sport in comparison to what other sports are doing right now. Professional sports, the UFC is rocking and rolling right now. So I'm happy with things right now.
Absolutely. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, like I said, I'm going out there again this weekend. I actually don't even know who I'm working with. I need to text my producer and see. I don't know. It'll be an adventure though. Yeah. So it'll be the Overeem fight against Sakai. And, you know, for Overeem, you know, he's still trying to make that push, you know, to the title shot. And we don't really know what's next for Stipe. And we know that, you know, Aleksandar has been winning fights. And, you know, he's trying to make that one last push. Sakai is a big boy. Yeah, you know, Alekstar's been fighting so much smarter lately, though. So I feel like there's, you know, we were talking about that craftiness, that expert, that veteran stuff. Like you do feel like sometimes with somebody like Alekstar, has he forgotten more than he ever learned, or more than some people have learned? You know what I mean? Like this guy's been around so forever, but he really lately started fighting a lot smarter. And you know, a few fights back, went out to train with Curtis Blades, in the elevation in Chicago and stuff. I mean, in Colorado. So. You know, Alekstar, even though it's getting near the end, it's like he did kind of take the pains to keep renewing himself and refreshing himself. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the fight.
Yeah, I don't know much about his opponent, but always exciting to watch Alekstar win. But I agree, he went from this big bruiser of a man that was highly experienced in striking and everywhere, but to a much more smart fighter now with the range and the knees and the way that he fights. It's a much more veteran style fighting, a safer approach to it. But hopefully he can get a win and get this push. I say hopefully he can get a win. I don't know anything about his opponent, so that's why I guess I'm rooting for Alex.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, folks, these are all, our podcasts are all available on audio downloads as well at MMA.audio. You can thank our producer, H.E.A.T, for that. And you can follow him at H.E.A.T on Twitter and on Instagram and everywhere else. If you're seeing this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And for me, Karyn Bryant on Twitter and on Facebook and stuff, KB Heat on Instagram. Alan, where can they find you?
Yep, please everybody do that. Please subscribe and follow me as well at Alan Jouban across all my social media. So subscribe to everything, follow us, and thank you guys for tuning in.
All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.